All right, it's time for checkpoint exercises again, which again summarizes all of the objectives throughout the section. We're asked with number 1 to write the given numbers in a multiplication problem using exponents. And again, that's just a matter of counting the number of times of the repeated factor and using that as the exponent. So first we have 2, which is being multiplied 1, 2, 3 times. So we have 2 cubed. And then 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll have 4 to the 5th. And it's not necessary to have the parentheses. We can also write it out how it is given in the solutions for the checkpoint exercises in writing. 2 cubed dot, or you could even use a big X there for multiplication, times 4 to the 5th. Second problem is similar, only we're looking at variables, and there are a lot more of them. So let's count those out. We have X and Z. There's no other variables that are being used in the problem. So let's count the number of X's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is going to equal X to the 8th. Then we'll have our little dot there. And then Z is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be Z to the 6th. And again, that's the same thing. If you want to write it, I typically like the parentheses better because it separates them. Again, that's X to the 8th times Z to the 6th. And either one of those is fine, how you want to write it out. On number 3, we're asked to evaluate an expression that's given with an exponent. So we have 2 to the 5th, and that's just multiplying 2 by itself 5 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And you could write it out simplified each time. With 2, it's fairly simple, but I mean, you could write out 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 times 2 times 2. But since it's 2, and it is fairly simple, let's just go along and multiply it through. So we have 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. 3 cubed on our next one we're asked to evaluate, and again, that's just writing it out, multiplied by itself 3 times, 3 times 3 times 3. And with 3, again, it's fairly simple. If it was a larger number, I would suggest going ahead and writing out each step, but in this case, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Now with number 5, it's a little different. We're given an expression and then values for the variables in that expression. I'd like to make a suggestion that when you substitute into an expression or into an equation for a given value of a variable, always wrap it in parentheses. This is especially important if you're dealing with any negative values. That way you make sure you don't lose a negative sign. So let's go ahead and substitute. I'm going to put a square bracket here because I know I'm going to use parentheses for A and B when I substitute. So this is going to be times A is 15 minus B is 10. And again, that's still all being cubed. And then 15 minus 10 is just 5. And that's still being cubed. So 5 times 5 times 5, that equals 25 times 5, which equals 125. Now the last problem, it's a word problem. We're told that the Katy Trail across Missouri is just under 2 times 5 cubed miles long. How many miles long as a whole number is the Katy Trail? So the essential part of the problem is just to remember that we're finding 2 times 5 cubed, but as a whole number. So let's go ahead and write that out. That would be 2 times 5 multiplied by itself 3 times. And we'll go ahead and write out the steps left to right in this case. Even though with multiplication, again, left to right, right to left, it doesn't matter as long as you only multiply each factor one time. So 2 times 5 is 10. And that's times 5 times 5 10 times 5 equals 50. And then finally, 50 times 5 is 250 miles.